Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel. I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 1 p.m. in us Central Time, as we get to ride home with you in the afternoon. You know, you can find us on the radio at icradio.media, where we are Fox News affiliates. You can also find us on television, Channel 182, Charter Communications, Abundance Television. We're syndicated. You can find us there on Apple, Roku, and Amazon Fire. And please watch the podcast on thenewscasters.com. That's where truth matters as well. Continue sending emails. I treasure each one. Donna at donnasedge.com. That's whether you'd like to see me improve on some things, and I'll always be glad to do that for you because the show is about you. You can also send ideas. If you'd like for me to do a little research, I'll be glad. I'm still the classic nerd, so I'll be glad to do some research for you as well. But again, thank you so much for watching. I have a very special guest. She's going to be a recurring guest. I am so proud she accepted that. Linda Hansen. She's an author. She's a speaker. You've been on the campaign trail, too. You got quite the history. How are you doing today, Linda?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's great to be with you. And I'm so glad you accepted. You're going to be on the show with us about once a month. And depending on what things happen in the world, maybe twice a month. We'll just have to play that by ear. So tell the folks, we have some new listeners and watchers. And so tell the folks about you.
For most of my adult life, I was a homeschool mom of 6 kids. I like to always throw that in because that's, really helped to frame my life in so many ways. I mean, why do we do what we do? I love my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I love my family. And my mission is to, know Christ and make him known and to promote freedom and liberty throughout the land. So, I want to fight for freedom for our children, for our children's children, and, help people know Jesus and know truth. And so I do that a variety of ways, but one of the ways is through, the political process, like you mentioned, and through writing and speaking and doing things. So that's who I am.
You are a speaker and you have businesses as well. And let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Yes. Well, I do. My calling is really, as Christians, we're called to do a lot of things, but the unique calling that God has placed on my life is through my work with Prosperity 101. So the listeners can go to my website, prosperity101.com, and read more about it. But God has placed a deep calling and sense of just urgency in helping employers to educate employees about the public policy issues that affect their jobs. Like so many employees go to the voting booth and vote themselves right out of their jobs because they have no idea. They literally have no idea what they're voting for. They don't realize the effects of the over legislation, over regulation, over taxation on businesses, and they don't even know their rights. So they don't know if they're going to a voting booth and voting for someone who will protect their rights. Mm-hmm. So I say, like employers, I feel like employers are the last frontier for our nation, because if we think of the educational system and how the American citizen is educated, we go through, preschool, grade school, high school, college, where, they want us to pay for it and they want to protest, right? And then they go on into the workplace and the voting booth, and we're asked to pay for their entitlements and everything else, and they're protesting at the workplace. Mm-hmm. And it's the anti-American viewpoint, and they don't realize the blessings of living in a free society. Mm-hmm. And so my calling and my passion, among all the other things I do too, is just to really inspire employers to start flipping that script, so that their employees begin to understand the blessings and responsibilities of living in a free society and how policy affects their paycheck. And I say to Christian employers, when you do that, when you let your employees know that you care about them, that you want them to know truth that will affect their life, and it's nonpartisan. You don't want to tell them who to vote for. You just want them to have information that will help them make wise decisions. Well, then they learn to be more respectful of you. It increases loyalty, engagement, and retention. And it also opens up a door often for sharing the gospel or really ministering to that person. So, this is just so important. And I feel conservative and Christian employers have kind of allowed fear to hold them back too often. And so, like I said, there's a lot of things I've done politically and in other realms. I also do coaching and I do branding and marketing and things. But this is a passion and a calling to get employers to re-engage. So I have an online course. I have a book. I have a podcast, a weekly podcast. And I love being able to share these truths with people and help inspire them to share truths with others.
And truth's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Sometimes it hurts, but in the long run, it feels good.
Yes.
You made the right decision and you're more wise about things you do. In my state of Alabama, the last election, the primary election, less than 10% of the folks voted. It kind of hurt my heart because I've been out there like hounding it in everybody's heads. It's important to vote. It's important to know who you elect. Basically, you are hiring people to work in our government and govern us. Don't you want the right one? So let's talk a little bit let's encourage folks to vote. Yes,
absolutely. Well, and here's the thing. America was really the first nation that gave the power to the people. Mm-hmm. It's we the people. And, native born Americans take this for granted. This is not something that every country has ever enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And so we have this opportunity and responsibility to elect those who are our leaders, when actually we are their leaders. Mm-hmm. We are to lead them. But we, the people, we just go back in complacency and ignorance, and we do not take this responsibility as responsibly as we should, And when you say 10% only voted, a lot of times these primary elections are very small turnout. And actually in 2020, I've heard estimates from 40 to 50% of conservative or Christian voters did not get out to vote in 2020. And could you imagine with me, just imagine what it would be if people who loved God, family, country, if they came out to vote. America would be a different place now. We were talking before we were recording about some things happening in your small towns in Alabama and some small towns here in Wisconsin. The crime, the cultural shifts, the problems with the border and the immigration and these gangs coming in. I mean, this would not be happening if we had all done our jobs as Christians and as conservatives. And I'm not saying I would never, so if somebody's listening and they're hearing this saying, oh, they're just like bigoted and want everybody to be a Christian. Well, yes, in one sense, because we love people, we love them to know the joy of Christ and that, but no one would want to legislate that. That's part of what our Constitution guarantees, is that people have that freedom to choose. We want people to have that freedom to choose and freedom to pursue happiness, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And so whatever that looks like to them, we'd like them to have that freedom, but not have it damaged for others because we've let criminals and a lot of really third world type doctrines and things in. America's been the land of the free and the home of the brave because we've had this Judeo-Christian heritage enshrined in our Constitution that protects these rights that we have from God, our rights to free speech, our rights to, raise our families. These come from God. They don't come from government. And it's our Constitution has protected those rights. But now, the doublespeak, the cancel culture doublespeak and the brainwashing that goes on, it's like somehow we have to get these rights from government. And that's just not true at all.
Something, some people, Linda, would say, maybe we've gone too far. Maybe we can't get it back. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, God has been in the business of overthrowing kingdoms for generations upon generations. And if you look in scripture and you can see kings that got overthrown when they rejected God, you saw people enduring hardship when they rejected God's principles. The thing is, it's never too late with God. God plus one is the majority. And so I just say we need a revival. So yes, we need to encourage people to get out to vote. Yes, everyone, please, 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 if you're watching, please make sure you go out to vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure you know the issues that affect you. Make sure you know if you're voting for a person who will protect your rights. But honestly, if we just say we need to pray and ask for God to bring revival to America and around the world, because that is what is going to truly transform the culture. And there's nothing else. And that is what has saved nations in the past.
Mhm.
And you look back at so much of our early years in our nation, the formation of our nation, and we can see times where God really intervened, and you start to really study history. This is why they want to erase history, so we don't see these beautiful things where cultures were transformed, nations were saved, people were safe when they were meant to be killed. I mean, so many things that God has his hand on people and on nations, but it's up to us to turn to him. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then he'll heal our land. He'll hear our prayer and heal our land. It's up to his people. Like, we have to do it. We can't expect all the non-believers. They're going to be non-believers. They're not going to do this. It's up to us. We need to be the salt and the light in our communities. We need to be the hands and feet of Jesus, the love of Christ, and we need to pray for revival. But Billy Graham said we need to pray like he's coming tomorrow and work like he's not coming for 1,000 years. So to those of you who are saying, well, people don't get out to vote, well, that means you better get engaged and you better get out and help people get to vote. So you need to be engaging people in your community so they get out to vote. They know the issues. It's up to each one of us. We have to do it. We must do it.
There are three things you can do, in my opinion, that can really expand your mind and expand your care for other people. One of those things I think you must do, you need to work retail at least 1 month in your life. You'll do that.
Hospitality, restaurants, yeah.
That'll work. And then number two, I think if you own a business, even if it's short term, have the experience of employing people, firing people, all those experiences in your life. But the third one I think is really important, and that's to travel abroad, because most people I know in my area have not been outside of the county, let alone out of the state. Right. And I think you need to experience those things. I know we've been out of the country several times, basically on missionary trips. Mm-hmm. And so my eyes were very open. Now, we all argue about healthcare and all those things, and it does need some work. I'm just telling you, it's not like it was back in the day. But we were in South Uganda, Africa, a few years ago. A hospital there, I've seen chicken houses in my area that looked better than the hospital in South Uganda. It was very pitiful. Mm-hmm. And they don't have the means of employing people to bathe patients, give them medicine, feed them, those kinds of things. So people who have to go to the hospital hopefully have relatives who can come and do those things and help out. But those people thought we were millionaires. They thought we were dignitaries. And I looked around like, me? And it was kind of like, not me, but anyway, in their minds, we are. And that's why so many people are trying to come into this country, because they've heard there's a better way. But you have to come in the right way. Mm-hmm. My daughter-in-law is from Russia. Mm-hmm. She was brought here when she was 9 years old. Definitely remembers what it was like to live in a communist country of Russia. Mm-hmm. Does not ever want to go back, maybe visit someday, but never wants to live there again. And she cries for this country.
Oh, I know so many immigrants who cry for this country. The immigrants who come here legally that love America. America has been a welcoming place. It's a melting pot. And we wanted to be that way. We wanted to be able to, but come through the front door. Mm-hmm. Come the right way. And right now, Americans need to understand that we have an open border. We don't even have a border. You know, and this administration has opened up the border to millions and millions of illegals that are coming through. We are paying for them. Some people don't understand that, you know, they get here and sometimes we're paying their way here, our tax dollars. So your listener, your hard-earned money that you work hard to earn or save or you know, pay your grocery bill with, a portion of that is being spent to bring in illegals, to bust them all around the nation, to oftentimes put them up in fancy hotels, pay their food, pay their transportation, pay their health care, their child care, everything else. We're paying for this. And many of them are actually criminals from other nations. They're gang members. We're paying for the trafficking that goes on, for labor trafficking, sex trafficking. We're paying for all of this. And it is just destroying our country. You know, I used to, years ago, when I first, you know, became an adult, I really started to pay attention to issues, and I became a Christian and really started to see things with different eyes. And I could see what was on the horizon for America. And I used to tell people, America is being destroyed from within. They will slowly destroy us from within. They will destroy the family. They will destroy our government institutions. They will destroy our education system, you know, one thing after another, because they play the long game. I mean, we're in a spiritual war, but the spiritual war becomes a long game with crafty people, right? And so, but they thought I was crazy. Well, now we're living that. We are absolutely living that. America isn't going to be, you know, it's not going to be guns that come at our border that's going to destroy America, at least not right now, especially if we keep our Second Amendment. But we are being destroyed from within. We are being destroyed from within. And they're erasing our history. They're erasing the family cohesion. They're erasing, you know, even just people understanding men and women. You know, men can have babies now, and, you know, women can be men. This is insane. It's insane. You know, we have illegals voting, even though it is illegal. You know, we have, I just saw something today. There were thousands of illegals lined up at the border to come in, and they're getting ready to join our military. Well, what does that mean? You know, while our government is working to arm illegals in some, especially in some states like California, they're wanting to disarm citizens. Well, I mean, this is not going to end well unless we step up.
And that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. That you would have illegals in our United States Army. It just makes...
Well, it makes sense if you want to destroy a country.
Yeah, right.
The goal is to destroy a country, destroy a culture, and just ruin a society so you have total control and power. Makes total sense. It makes total sense. What they're doing is absolutely textbook for how to overthrow a country.
Exactly. The book was definitely written by that, and it's being done page by page by page.
Right. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about all of these things that are happening, such as, you know, people don't know what sex they are. You know, parents have nothing. The parents have no control over their children. If the boy wakes up one day and decides he wants to be a girl, he's mutilated. And the same thing with a girl. And but what they don't say is, and I've done some research. I love research. That's the only way you can be wise about anything is some research. So what if they change their mind? Because I remember, you know, I wanted to be a cowgirl one time, you know, when I was 9 years old. And then I thought I want to be an astronaut. Well, so many things through my life, I wanted to be something. I never said I wanted to be a talk show host, so I don't know why I did. But anyway, but I love it. I enjoy it. So I get to cover folks like you and bring you to the front. But the thing about it is to me, it seems like a form of let's just get rid of the human race and maybe let the illegals come in and do the voting. Like some of us old fogies who are out there and we believe in conservative ways. Is it a way to get rid of, say, the United States of America and bring illegals in who are going to vote the way you want them to?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you brought up a good, absolutely. But it's also, you brought up a good point. People don't like to think about the systematic approach of depopulation. I mean, this sounds too gruesome to even think about, right? Like most regular people who are raising their family, going to work every day, trying to be good moms, good dads, good grandparents, good employers. They're not thinking about people who are absolutely focused on reducing our ability to reproduce, right? Mm-hmm. And so whether it's through our food supply, whether it's through the chemtrails that they're putting on the sky, mm-hmm. whether it's through the vax, which, I know your listening audience is probably all over the board on that, but I say, do your research, go read the Pfizer report that Naomi Wolf at dailyclout.io, go read the Pfizer report and the reports about Moderna, and you find out what really happened with the vax and how dangerous it has been, especially in the areas of reproduction and things. So we need to look at that. We also need to say, like, okay, this transgender thing, I mean, we were talking about living in rural communities, right? I was talking with my farm neighbors. I'm like, so have you ever tried to get milk from a bull? You don't get eggs from you can't get eggs from a rooster, right? Mm-hmm. So this is just nonsense, okay? But it's evil nonsense. And you talked about how people change their mind. I think it was Bill Maher who said, I'm glad my parents didn't believe me when I wanted to be a pirate. I could have, one eye and one leg, patch over one eye and one leg because he wanted to be a pirate. But, we joke about that, but this is true. And the other thing is, this is such an evil, not only do we disfigure things, but we make them a pharmaceutical patient. This is big business. So for everybody out there who's thinking, oh, we just need to help them be themselves or whatever. No, remember, they're vulnerable and they're being brainwashed. And then they become a pharmaceutical customer for the rest of their life.
Another research I did on this was okay, so let's say I'm a boy and I want to be a girl. They'll never have that sexual passion they think they're going to have. No. That's before the sale. They don't tell them after the sale what happens. Right. I didn't know that. I didn't know. But good research needs to be done about these things. So if you have a son or a daughter who is even thinking about it, you need to make sure they understand that part.
Yes.
That you think you're going to have the desire. You think you're a man. You're going to have the desire of a woman. You're not.
No,
you have no desires.
Yeah. And how do you know? Like when you're, when I was a teenager, I wasn't going to get married till I was 28 and I wasn't going to have kids till I was 32. Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, I got married 2 weeks after I turned 19. Mm-hmm. And, I had 6 kids by the time I was 35. So, I had 5 by the time I was 35.
You didn't go that bland.
Yeah, so life has a way of doing things differently than we expect. And so now, but here's the other danger. You have like our vice presidential candidate right now, not Kamala Harris, although she would agree with this, I'm sure, but Tim Walz in the state of Minnesota. I mean, if parents disagree with their children wanting to become trans, they risk losing their children. I mean, and having the children become wards of the state because, the state says, well, you can't make that decision for them. So if you have a 10-year-old child who wants to switch genders because they think it's cool this year, and you're saying, could you wait until you're an adult? Mm-hmm. I'll love you anyway. But, if you could wait till you're an adult to make that decision. Mm-hmm. Nope. And it's not just Minnesota. There's several states like that too. So, that's where the parents' rights movement is coming up. That's where, and as believers and believers in freedom, we're not for banning books. We get told we're banning books in schools. No, We're just saying that you don't let a 5-year-old drive a spaceship, right? Or a fancy fast car. You say, okay, let's wait, and this could be age appropriate later, right? This is some things I don't think are appropriate at all, but but that's different. But
I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, but we should have the freedom. I mean, we're not saying these books should be banned. We're saying we want children to be able to grow up and be able to grow to adulthood in freedom and be able to find out who they are, and then they can make adult decisions for their lives, right? Not have the government decide.
Right. And so many of them are going through that have had this done, have regretted it. And so they're going through this depression mode, suicide,
right?
All of these things. It's not healthy.
No, it's not. And, we have to look too, is what are we paying for as taxpayers? In this administration, the military has become a place to go to get your transgender surgery. Yeah. And so we're paying for this. So, as taxpayers and citizens, if this is not something we want our tax dollars to pay for, well, then it goes back to what we talked about before, being an engaged, active citizen who goes to the voting booth. Don't be one of those 90% who doesn't show up on your primary day. Be one who's there to vote. And then we're talking about election integrity. Let's make sure we have election integrity. So take time to volunteer, to be a poll observer. Take time to work as a poll worker. We need honest people. We need people to volunteer to go to the nursing homes and be the observers there to make sure that the process is done according to law. These things that, people say, oh, you're just trying to suppress the vote or something. No, we're just trying to abide by the law, make sure the law is followed, make sure voter rolls are correct. They're not padded with non-citizens. They're not padded with dead people or multiple recurring registrations for the same person. I mean, we're talking about transparent, honest, secure elections. And so all of these things go into voter engagement and voter education and all of that. I mean, we're talking about these issues, and it all gets down to, your listeners. It gets down to you. It gets down to me. Every one of us doing what we need to do. We can't do everything, but we can sure pick one thing or two things. We can sure pray and ask God, how do you want to use me to help protect freedom in America? And how can I speak up to be able to make sure that we have a more sane immigration policy? And, and when people talk about deporting, like, they get all up in arms because President Trump, if elected, is saying he'll deport these illegals. Well, they're here illegally. If you had
the key word, illegal.
If you had your house invaded by people who are eating all your food, using all your resources, everything like that, and asking you to pay for it all, I mean, you want them to leave your house, right? And that's all we're saying. We don't want anyone to be hurt. It's like we want these people to be protected and cared for and things, but may evil be exposed and brought to justice, and may the innocents be brought to freedom.
Let's go into a commercial break. When we come back, let's talk about how things sometimes are not what they seem.
Exactly.
We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020. We're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters, even if it does hurt. It really does matter. Thank you again so much for watching. You can find us on the radio at IC Radio. That's in ChristRadio.media. We are Fox News affiliates. You can also find us on television, Channel 182, Charter Communications, Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. By the way, Linda, I did speak with the higher ups down there. I don't know if you got my email or not. You need a podcast there, and it's really easy. You fit in perfectly. They're looking for all of the information you're giving us today, and I think that would be awesome. So I know you've got a lot of irons in the fire, but anyway, this would be a good move for you. And you would love the people. Clint Day actually owns the podcast. He's from the Days Inn. His dad actually was the founder of Days Inn.
Days in.
He has enough to finance it and do it at the right way, and it really is. I'm just proud to be part of this team. Absolutely. Continue sending emails, Donna@donnasedge.com. I do take them to heart. I've changed a few things about the show and about the way I do things because of you, because the show is about you, and it's because of you that we have this show. Again, thanks for going on 20 years. It'll be 20 years in April of next year. I can't believe it. Somebody turned around yesterday and started this. Couldn't even speak my name the first day on the show. It was just, it was one of those things, but it turned into something else, and we're glad to be part of this and part of your world as well. Linda Hansen is with us. She's an author. She's a speaker. This girl wears so many hats. You must carry a huge business card.
Well, because I've done a lot of consulting for different clients too, I have all these different business cards for different things. And I told my husband one day that if somebody looked at all the different business cards that I've had at some point, they would think I never could hold down a job. But it's actually just opposite.
You're just doing all these things.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's important.
Great. Like as the Lord leads, and may he be glorified. So
absolutely. Well, appreciate your ministry and what you're doing. You much more than you'll ever know. And I'm pretty sure you're touching the lives of people who don't have a clue who you're helping. It's just people all over the country, all over the world, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've heard from people all over the world.
Let's talk about how things are not as they seem sometimes. And you and I have been in this media world for a long time. So you and I can detect things a lot of times other people can't detect. So I was watching something, and it was Kamala Harris coming off of a plane, she and her VP guy, and they were coming off of a plane, and the people didn't look real. I mean, it was almost like a loop. You know what a loop is, folks? And so you could see the same guy falling backwards several times. I mean, he was up as you're facing the video, look on the right-hand side, and it's the same guy. How can you keep doing this over and over and over again? So I'm not as concerned about AI as I once was. If that's the best they can do,
I think they can do better with it. I think they can
grow into something evil, but right now I'm not that concerned.
Right.
So how can we know something real, because we're part of the media too. How can you know whether something being told on a talk show or on the news media is actually real? How do we know it's not a facade?
That is a great question. And I have been seeing more and more about the tools that are out there now for absolutely almost editing in live video, in real time editing. Like there are tools that if someone wanted to edit what we're saying right now, they could do it. They could do it live.
Well,
And
if it doesn't sound better, that's fine.
That's scary. That's really scary. But I would say, we have to be so much more diligent and vigilant than we've ever been before. And in order for us to save our nation and to be able to impact people for Christ, we have to be well educated. We have to be well informed. And so we absolutely need to start paying closer attention. And so when I see a video now, I often look and think, okay, how many times have I seen this? Have I seen this from other contributors? Has it, are there other ways I can confirm the validity of this video? Because sometimes you can kind of tell, we've all seen those little dance videos where you've got like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., J.D. Vance, and they're.
Well, we know that's fake. It's fun.
Yeah,
staying alive.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's all fun, and it's good, So we've seen that. And some of us have even done those little holiday greeting cards where we dance with family members for a Christmas card. Well, that's one thing. But when they can do the deep fake and it is really disguising lies, it's kind of scary. So we have to make sure that we are not just trusting one source of information. Don't trust the mainstream media. Don't trust everything you see on social media. Try to, verify. It's like Reagan always said, trust but verify, right? Trust but verify. So if you see something, make sure you verify. Don't just let it be from one source, even if it is a trusted source. I follow several people on social media and in media. And if there's something that just, I think, wow, that's really out there, then I try to find out, is this really the fact? Did they really do this on the streets of New York? Did this really happen in downtown Chicago? Did this really happen in Springfield, Ohio, like what we're seeing happen, the Haitians who are eating family pets there, right now with the immigration crisis there. You look at that and you think this can't be, people are making this up, but it's not. And so you just have to look at all the different sources and don't just trust one source. And then I would say, as a believer, I always ask the Lord to give me the discernment and the wisdom to know truth.
Spot on.
We need to be, as scripture talked about the men of Issachar, who were men who understood the times and knew what to do. Okay? They were men who understood the times and knew what to do. That's what we need to be. We need to be people like that we can be wise and discerning. We can understand the times and know what to do. And that comes to comparing everything to the truth of God's word. So,
something, if it wags its tail like a dog and it barks like a dog, it's probably a dog.
Probably a dog.
And I'm just seeing too many videos that are out there, supposed to be a background with huge crowds of people for Kamala and people with three arms, like on the front row of one of them, it was the same woman. She just had a wig on one, and then another one was like a hat or something. I don't remember what it was, but you could clearly see that was the same woman. And somehow they did it with AI somehow, but you could still see that was a fake. All you got to do is open your eyes and just ask for discernment.
Right. Discernment is a very important thing. Wisdom and discernment. And again, I would say, we must pray for revival in America so people can see things through the light of the Spirit of God, where we have that spiritual discernment. Because, a lot of people can say right from wrong. And, and it used to be, you don't murder, you don't lie, you don't cheat, you don't steal, all these things, which, yes, but in our culture today, people say, well, that's your truth. Well, okay. And what's happening to society when we're letting these things go? We need to anchor it in the truth of God's word. We need to say there are some things that are absolute truth. And we know that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So of course it begins with him. But there are absolute truths. And just because we say that doesn't mean we hate people. You know, we don't hate people who think differently than we do. We just say there is truth and there's non-truth. And it's simple.
I mean, it's either you're lying or you're telling the truth. It's just that.
Right.
Now, Donald Trump has never hurt my feelings. But now he reminds me of my dad. My dad was very vocal. He believed in just black and white. You told the truth. He was with a big corporation. He hired a lot of employees. He was responsible for them. He would fire somebody in 2 seconds.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, he caught them lying. He caught them stealing, anything like that. He would say, no, we don't need that person here. You're gone, you know, like that. And he wouldn't give them another chance.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess Trump just I never saw where he was being rude. I just saw where he was a businessman and he'd run his business and he was running the country the same way you would run your business, which I was spot on about that. So
Yeah.
Lisa, I know your advisor before for Herman Cain. And I know that was a wonderful experience for you. I mean, you couldn't pay for that kind of experience. That was wonderful. So if you were advising Donald Trump right now, there's going to be a debate. What would you be advising him to do right now?
First thing I'd say is pray. Seek the Lord, seek the Lord's wisdom. Ask the Lord to fill your mouth, fill your mind, and to pray. And I would also say, remember that the American people care about the policy issues, you know, and to be the person he really is deep inside. You know, people attack him and say all these things because, you know, something he said 30 years ago. Yes, I don't love everything I've ever heard come out of Donald Trump's mouth, but I've met the man. I have many, many friends who work with him closely. I understand his history of philanthropy, generosity, compassion. He is a very caring man. He doesn't have to do this. He does not have to do this. He had a great life. He's a multi-billionaire. I mean, he doesn't have to do this. Like, how many of us would be willing to risk being thrown in jail, having our name dragged through the mud, being shot at, you know, all having our families threatened, all these things. He doesn't have to do this. He's doing it because he loves America. He wants to bring freedom and safety, security, and common sense. I mean, Herman, you talked about Herman Cain. We used to say common sense policies of Herman Cain, right? Common sense solutions, common sense. So I think you asked about Donald Trump. He's got this debate tonight. Stick to issues. And all he has to do is present truth. I mean, the records are very clear. I would say don't get into name calling. You know, I know some of his followers.
I kind of miss some of that, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
his followers love that, and you got to admit, you know, I saw something the other day where someone asked Elton John if he complained or if he didn't like it that Trump had called the leader of North Korea Rocket Man or something. He said, "No, I loved it." You know, so it just depends, but. You know, the policy issues are very clear. Never before in history have we had the opportunity to really compare these two administrations side by side. We have the 4 years of Donald Trump, and then we have the 3.5+ years that we've had under Biden and Harris. And we have to remember, in their effort to protect democracy, right, they're putting forth a candidate that really was not chosen. And was unpopular, and now she's the media favorite, where 3 weeks before she was there, they were talking about getting rid of her because she was such a drag on the ticket, and Biden was perfect and, you know, able to be, you know, cognizant, and, you know, and then all of a sudden, whew, there's a coup and it's a Democratic convention and all these things. And I would just tell Donald Trump, stick to the facts. Just very plainly talk about, you know, it's like Reagan's line, were you better 4 years ago than you are today? And everyone knows the price of gas, the price of groceries. Everyone knows about their safety and security. We were talking about it earlier in the show. You know, the things that are happening in communities all over America. Everyone knows that there's problems in the school. They hate seeing what's happening to our young people. They hate having, you know, the low percentage of Chicago school students unable to read. We know that America is in trouble. We know it is. So if Donald Trump just sticks to that and talks about his own record, and I think he will win. You know, America wants that common sense, business-minded solution. They want somebody who loves America, who loves Americans, you know, and who cares about the rest of the world. You know, I would say too, clarify that America first does not mean America only. It means America first. You know, it's like almost like the whole generation says, oh, take care of yourself, and you have to take care of yourself before you take care of others. And that's all great for people. But when we say we need to do that for our country, then it's like, oh, you're bigoted and you're racist and you don't care about others. No, a strong America makes for a stronger world. And, you know, his record speaks for itself. So if he speaks his record and people see that, I think it'll be a great debate.
You know something, I know a lot of people who actually believe in abortion. They're totally against him on that. They would, you know, I'm all for that. I'm all for, you know, different things, you know, that Kamala is actually for. However, this is the bullet, okay? So however, they also know they're paying more at the grocery store, just like you mentioned before. They're paying more for gasoline.
Right.
The price of used cars has shot up. I'm sorry, housing has just, I mean, shot way up. And that's what they're voting for. Even though they're on Kamala's side about a lot of these issues.
Right.
You pay bills. I mean, you got to live.
Right. Well, and I'm sure, I mean, I hope that your listeners have seen some of the things I've seen where the minority community is speaking up too, you know, and saying, hey, you know, we're not just voting on skin color here. You know, don't treat us like we're stupid enough to just vote on skin color or race, you know. And how is it that the party who can't define a woman is now saying we should vote for her because she's a woman? You know, I mean, this is insane. I
thought you just said we should not know the difference between a man or a woman.
Right.
So they keep holding up these signs, I'm with her.
Right.
Shouldn't you say I'm with they? I mean, whatever it is they say.
I know. And so it's just so ridiculous, really, if you stop to think about it. Everything is upside down. But again, I'll go back to the fact that we need revival, you know. And you talked about what I would say to Donald Trump, you know, pray too, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to say we need God in America. That doesn't mean we're going to legislate Christianity. It doesn't mean that we are going to make everyone believe the way that we do. We're saying we want to have those principles that created an orderly society that helped Western civilization to flourish, that brought freedom and flourishing and joy to so many people. You know, it brought the capitalist system, which, you know, our lives are so much better because of this. And that is because we had this Judeo-Christian background, and that's what it's rooted in. And so, you know, these people who are these pop-up protests that are coming, and now it's raising the Palestinian flag and all these things, you know, they don't realize that all these things that they're promoting in these protests, you know, they're going to be, I don't know. I mean, like you have gays and lesbians, you know, promoting this, and they think, well, in those countries, they'd be executed. I mean, this is just insane. Yeah. And so, you know, you can go to some of these rallies and say, so tell me, what are the policies that you care about that makes you want to vote for Kamala Harris, or before it was Joe Biden? Well, I mean, now you hear, well, she's a woman. Okay, I'm a woman. Vote for me, you know. I mean, like, you know,
write their name in. I promise I can do a better job.
Okay? I mean, like, and how is that helping your life? Like, you know, I think as individuals too, it's it's okay for us to ask questions. I don't like to tell people who to vote for, but some people might think I do because I pick my sides and I pick based on policy, right? But at the same time, if we just help people understand some of these policies, they'll decide who to vote for. They'll be able to look and see who are the people that are protecting their freedom once they just basically understand, So listeners, we've talked about, going to the voting booth, making sure you vote, stepping up to volunteer, to be an observer at the polls, to be a poll worker, making sure we have election integrity, becoming informed on the issues, and being able to really speak about them and be able to discern truth from error in the media, being able to look beyond the headlines and find out what's fact. But, pray and then pray some more, and share with your neighbors and your friends some of the things about policy issues, like, did you know, or why do you vote that way? And just listen to them. A lot of times they'll figure it out on their own, just as you ask them questions. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to tell them who to vote for. It's like coaching someone. If you have like a life coach or a business coach, they don't tell you what to do. They're not your consultant. They're your coach. You have to come up with it on your own. So the best way that we can do that is helping them come up with it on their own. And that's what I try to do with my book, my online course. So employers, if you use my online course, if you offer my book to your employees, I want to assure you, it's not telling them how to vote. It's asking them questions about these policies and how it affects their life, helping them understand, and asking them what do they want in their life.
It's important we think for ourselves, and that's what you're doing. You're triggering that, so yes. People can go, well, wait a minute, I didn't think about it that way, and that's a great process. Absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question, and this is about, and I'm not just picking on Kamala, I just want people to think about this. Okay, so the personality of Kamala. Okay, so I was in the corporate world for many, many, many years. And so we'd have to go to these crazy trainings. Most of it was about understanding personalities and how to debate people and, that kind of thing. So one thing I really took away from that, and it was sometimes people give away their nervousness by the things they do. And one of them was just laughing. Mm-hmm. Where you just laugh at something, you're like, what was funny about that? It's a way this person is really nervous about what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They're not sure of themselves. And she does this often. I mean, she'll just start, you can ask her a question, like, what is your policy on birth control or something? Just anything. Even a question she should be able to answer. Mm-hmm. She laughs. What are your thoughts about that? That seems a little.
She does. Well, I do that sometimes too.
Well, everybody does.
But and I will say, all my life I've kind of wished my laugh wouldn't be so distinctive, but it is. But at the same time, she's asking to be the leader of the free world.
Yeah.
And professionalism is knowing how to contain that, okay? Knowing how to speak about issues, being able to be well informed enough that you have it on the tip of your tongue, Mm-hmm. And I do not see her being as prepared for that. I mean, if you look at the interview that she did with a very friendly reporter, and she also had Tim Walz with her, you look at that and you compare that interview, which was edited and cut and things and really softball questions, and you compare that to the hour-long interviews that President Trump does over and over again, where he's just talking off the cuff, or him standing on the tarmac talking with reporters. This is what we need. We need a leader who is able to have all this in their head, and they can bring it forth and they can speak about it clearly and eloquently, and they understand. It doesn't mean they have to understand and remember every single fact and figure. They're going to get it wrong, and then of course the media is going to blow that up. But the thing is, we're all human. Right? We're all human. We're going to make mistakes when we speak. We're going to misspeak from time to time. But when you can look at a person over time and say, do they have a good command of this issue? Do they have a good command of economics? Do they have a good command of understanding what our healthcare system is going through? Do they have a good command of understanding the immigration crisis? Do they have a good command of what's going on in the schools? Do they have a good command of what's happening to employers and businesses all over this nation? I mean, do they have a good command on what's happening in the Middle East, in Europe? I mean, do they understand what's happening internationally? These are things that we need to look at. And, everybody can't know everything. And I think sometimes the media plays on when a candidate that they don't want, especially, might not know a thing. Well, people get tired and they forget something, or they don't know something yet. That doesn't mean they can't learn it or whatever. But I will say there's a big stark difference right now between Kamala Harris and President Trump. And the people who complain about President Trump the most, I think, are the people who have never really listened to some of his speeches in full context.
Well, like you said, he really doesn't even need the teleprompter. But when you're out there and you're on the campaign trail, and the only thing you can think of to say is you would like to have a black top on your Starbucks cup instead of a white one, because the white one shows your lipstick. What does that have to do with anything? And I love to have fun too. I do, but sometimes you've got to be serious. And this is a serious matter.
This is a serious matter. She's asking to be the leader of the free world. And, we need to be that careful with every elected official. Mm-hmm. We were talking before about these small towns, right? Well, we have city council people, county board people, school board people. And, I'm guilty too of not always knowing everybody at the local level, especially when my life involved a lot of travel. When I was traveling a lot and I wasn't here as much, and I try very hard to be a very informed voter and stuff. But there's been times I've thought, wait, I haven't met that person yet. I need to, and then I feel really bad because I think, I should know, whether it's some places still elect dog catchers. Well, we should know who that is, Our tax dollars are paying for this. We are hiring these people. Mm-hmm. And so when we're employers, we interview people, and I say in business, you want to be slow to hire and quick to fire. You talked about how your dad would fire people. My dad would too. Slow to hire, quick to fire. Unfortunately, when it comes to government officials, we can be slow to hire and you can never fire them. Like some of these bureaucrats. They're forever. You can never fire them. We have to be able to do that. And even in the election system, we have to be able to fire our elected officials through our voting, correct? But we have to be aware that we're not just voting for a person in this election. We are voting about what kind of system we want. Okay, Donald Trump is not campaigning against Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is campaigning against a system. A system that has been carefully built to take down America from within. Mm-hmm. And that's why they want him in jail, broke, possibly dead. That's why. Because he's upsetting the apple cart. He's taking away the gravy train. He's interfering with their globalist, elitist oligarchy. And he doesn't owe anybody anything. Mm-hmm.
That's true. We're going to have to call it a day. Thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to keep this up. We'll continue this. But I appreciate you being with me. It's a huge honor to be able to interview you. Absolutely. And our audience loves you too. Well, and speaking of audience, we got the best ones. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. I definitely appreciate that. And the whole show for the past almost 20 years. Again, we appreciate it. And hope you have a wonderful, super duper awesome rest of the day.